We are now presenting the letter of Rizal to the young women of Malolos. Ignorance is servitude, because as a man thinks, so he is. A man who does not think for himself and allows himself to be guided by the thought of another is like the beast led by a halter. Jose Rizal became ambition with a pure heart. What he saw in his era was a society designed to subjugate the masses and undermine their abilities, especially those of the oppressed Filipino women, so that they can be more easily exploited by their foreign transgressors. And so, he desired to change the perspective of the masses. When he heard of the brave young women who petitioned to have a Spanish language night class for women, he was touched and reached to them to express his thoughts, which can be summarized with Rizal wondered whether bravery was a quality of the Filipino. Yes, there were modest and prim women, but never those who were willing to stand up and weather the tides. Yet the women in Malolos pleasantly surprised him, who set an example to other countrymen to break the subversive societal and psychological shackles that have been placed on them, now knowing beyond following the every whim of their oppressors. He says it is pusillanimity that prevails when one believes being good is synonymous with blind obedience, and prudence and free thought are heretical. He ponders how God, the source of all wisdom, would think of his creations leading each other around with bindings of thought when he gave them the ability to think for themselves. He said imposing your will upon others is truly discourteous, and that pretending to be in communication with God, even more so. Of course, no man is an island, and one should welcome the thoughts of others to decide upon the best course of action. He wonders, what good man will be born from mothers raised in servitude of body, mind, and manner? He wonders whether offerings to the Almighty serve purpose. He praises those who aid their fellow men and curses those who ignore their plight, preferring to offer their gold to decorate the churches quixotically. He postulates that saintliness does not exist in being abject or highfalutin. As such, why is it that the friars, which with enough compensation, suddenly revoke taboos for the highest bidder? The friar god isn't the one of pure love and absolute fairness, and women must recognize that in order to let her children grow recognizing the virtue of the true God. They must awaken the will of their child towards the meaning of being a good man. Otherwise, as Rizal said, no good water comes from a turbid bitter spring. No savory fruit comes from acrid seed.
The good qualities of a Filipino are well known, and it is for this reason they are suppressed beyond recognition. Because as long as she is a slave, so will her descendants be. He knows they lack resources and thus springs forth his desire to bring forth the light to them. If this message does not stir anger but curiosity, he hopes to pierce the veiling fog that ails his people with the bright light of the sun. That is our desire, to uplift the woman not only in beauty and dignity, but also in inner will and ambition. Friars are often told their contemporaries of the meekness of the Filipina, as if other cultures thus did not have women of weak character. Friars were no small part in this tainting of the Filipina. One must ask then, are all Spanish women cut from the Virgin Mary and all Filipinas deviants? Why is it so that being with a woman spells ill of a young man? They tell that the man loses his prospects of a grand future when he falls in love. Why can it not be so that the woman can inspire and uplift a young man? The mothers of Sparta rejoiced their valorous sons who won their battles, yet mourned those who returned in failure. They are a great example of how a people should protect their honor. Rizal does not want his message to be ingested and taken as fact. He wishes those laying witness to take careful ponderance in his message and sift through the sieve of reason.
Consider this: that the tyranny of some is due to the cowardice of others. So he is. That he who refuses protection to other Filipina does not change, then no more shall she bear the child that is not fatuous, to reflect and to make use of reason in all things, and to consider well what kind of religion they are teaching you. At the end of all this, let me quote Rizal himself. In the garden of learning, gather not better, but choice fruit. looking well before you eat, because on the surface of the globe, all is deceit, and often the enemy sows weeds in your seeding plot.
The bread of thought he dedicated to his countrymen that strive to improve himself, and his message showed that he truly desired for them to shine through within their true potential. But what does this message mean to us? The dedication of Rizal inspired the Filipinos to bring out their full capability.
It is important to understand that Rizal was heavily inspired by the ideals of the Western views towards women in society in which the access to free will is available to the common citizen. The petition of the women of Malolos was rejected by the opposition of the parish priest Felipe Garcia. As the petition continued, with the help of Doroteo Cortes, who was the reformist Manila lawyer, and Guadalupe Reyes, it was eventually accepted by the Governor General with the following conditions. First, they will be under Senorita Guadalupe Reyes instead of Senor Sandico, who was then a Latin teacher teaching the women Spanish in secret at the time in the house of Rufina Reyes. The school was to be financed by the women and that classes should be held during the day. However, the victory was eventually cut short soon after, since after 3 months the school closed down due to pressure from the authorities.
Now, Rizal's letter to the young women of Malolos mostly talks about the capabilities, qualities, and hidden letters is still relevant to the modern day times, because in his letter, his message to the young women tells that it is Rizal's desire for women to have the same rights and opportunities that men receive time, wherein there are still parts of the world that only view women to this extent, when in reality, women can also be powerful and smart and the same opportunity and rights.
An idea that was also presented in the letter was how a mother should raise her children as kind, sincere, and God-fearing individuals. The general idea here can also be whatever a mother does and shows. That is what also the children becomes. Since during their time, mothers would always kiss the hands of the friars due to submission, and more or less, the children will grow up as mindless slaves following every order, even if the nature of the task would violate their own rights as humans. Even in this present day, most children would very much want to grow up like their parents. That is why they must set up an example for their children.
For those who are unmarried, Rizal also gave advice to them. He stated that women should not be satisfied with just looks and appearances, as it can often be deceiving, and vice versa. They should instead focus on their character and way of thinking. A lot of women are often deceived by the outer appearances of men, which leads to unstable marriages and relationships, and sometimes it leads to their harm. That is why a woman must be observant of a man's characters and actions. One only dies, and if one does not die well, a good opportunity is lost and will not present itself again.
If life in the 19th century is still the same at this moment, surely I will not be able to be included in this group, and girl power does not exist. Instead, I am peacefully living my life at home, learning to stitch, cleaning the house and dishes, learning how to do the laundry and to cook. I am learning how to run a home rather than studying. Things will not be the same as what we see right now if we women are not granted the same privilege as men. I will not be able to read and write. Specifically, I will not be able to have ambitions and dreams, be included in the team, and acknowledged as an engineer. Since we are deprived of education, no women will become a professional or even a leader. However, result acknowledges the potential of a women that we are embedded to receive the same opportunities those men have. With that, we continuously prove to society that women deserve the freedom and right to have education. And now, we see women excelling in various fields. In medicine, we have Fidel Mundo, the first woman pediatrician. In the field of science and engineering, we have Isa Mijeno, who invented and introduced salt lamp that was recognized by the APEC CEO Summit with the former US President Barack Obama and Alibaba CEO Jack Ma. Even women had able to be part of our government and become a leader, as our former Vice President Lenny Robredo, who is also a professor and a lawyer. Additionally, our teachers, most of our educators belong to the female group. Indeed, can change everything to build dreams and open our minds. As growing through the message of the essay, it also emphasized the role of a woman as a mother and as a wife. That reminds them not to overlook their responsibilities within their family, as they were responsible to guide their child. Mothers are all founders of various things, whether they play the most crucial role in the life of their children. Gratefully, most of the Filipino moms even have a lot within their plate, juggling their time for their work and for their house responsibilities, attending the chores. At some point, they never let their child alone. They always allot their time to attend to the needs of their children. We somehow become dependent on our mothers, and we live our life and made decisions at some point are according to our mother's likings. They influence us, like on deciding things carefully before pursuing it. Will it be affecting other people or even to yourself, positively or negatively? Like how our mothers do within their family. They always think about the state of their family before doing things. They always want the best for their family, no matter how hard and tiring it is. They will do their best just to fulfill their role as a mother and to showcase their unconditional love. Lastly, besides pursuing your dreams and before you build a home and to have a family, you girls or ladies must never ever forget your worth. It is fulfilling every time you know how much you matter in this world, how you can show love to yourself, to others, and to the world. It is not selfish if you allow yourself to invest more in yourself. It is self love and respect, and you deserve a life. Since life is truly challenging, you know yourself. You will survive, you will commit mistakes, make a not so good decisions in life, but eventually, those things help you to grow. And when you're ready for another step, the right man will show, a man that will show you the meaning of love and home, conquering life together with a bright smile and content heart.
To quote Charles Bukowski, never had I known a young girl so beautiful, and at the same time so gentle and intelligent. Where were her men? Where had they failed? Looking back on the things that I have learned, the letter to the young women of Malolos not only tackled Rizal's ideas regarding on the gender, but also how we should keep an open mind about the ideals and lessons that we impart on the younger generations. For the women, that the unfair circumstances have towards them is an attribute that will be eventually passed down to the young. To think if one is acting as a trailblazer for the next generation, to start thinking about what repercussion our actions have towards the next generation, that is what I think the relevance and the lesson I have learned in the letters of the women of Malos.
Every woman has the desire to be seen as intelligent. However, let us not forget that gender does not determine one's worth and dignity. So does intelligence. Any skill you have could be said as a gift from God. So one must treasure it and use it for the right reasons. Additionally, your intelligence is not restricted to a few aspects of life. It should not be simply developed and used for academic and professional goals. Instead, you can cultivate and employ your intelligence in all spheres, including your beliefs, connections, interests, and service. Use your capacity and abilities wisely and to the fullest extent possible, but keep in mind that they do not define you or your purpose. They are instruments to be utilized properly, obediently, and with knowledge, grace, and love.
In a perfect world, we shouldn't even have to consider about being equal, as if it was a concern or an issue. There, it would be a matter of course. Alas, the indifferent cruelty of the universe is manifested, and humans are inflicted with greed, lust, and vanity, and envy with no regards to their fellow man. Rizal admired the young women for showing the bright light of the indomitable human spirit, by seeking to better themselves amidst the cards laid upon them by fate, a feat remarkable for individuals of their status and gender at that era. At least, for me, they represent a certain peak of the human spirit of surpassing all odds. Who cannot be inspired by these bodacious young women braving their odds?
The battling spirit displayed by the young women of Malolos deeply impressed Jose Rizal. He writes in his letter that he is extremely happy and satisfied with the combat they fought. It is a clear passage of Rizal's letter that the ultimate goal of his writing was to have women given the same educational possibilities as males, because it was often believed that the young ladies would soon only be taken as spouses and stay at home with the children. They were not sent to school during those times. That's why Rizal places a strong emphasis on the need to provide both boys and girls the right to education and the freedom of thought.
Everything not be the same, and that is art of life. It is always never fair, not to me, to you, and to everyone. Thus, you let it be the cause of your downfall. It is better to live your life knowing you do things without regrets. You did your part, and it's beautiful that in even a small part, you had made a change into your life and to others.
To summarize, the original language of to the women of Malolos is Tagalog. In answer to Marcelo H. Del Pilar's request, Jose Rizal wrote this piece while he was in London. This lengthy letter was written in Tagalog as a result of an event that occurred at Malolos on December 12, 1988, but was unheard of that time. 20 Malolos young ladies assembled a committee and petitioned General Wheeler for permission to start a Spanish language night school. This letter allegedly was read in front of the Women's Assembly, and copies were distributed and handled with utmost care. The gesture touched the young women, and up to today, is heralded as an enlightening text about the woes of women in an oppressive society.